in South Africa has just released details of a new bid to host a Formula 1 race in the near future. Now, South Africa is not the only place interested in joining the Formula 1 calendar. Just a couple of weeks ago, Stefano Domenicali was spotted in Bangkok, not for the reasons you think, completely legitimate work reasons. He was there to talk with the Prime Minister of Thailand about a new proposal to host a race around a new street track in Bangkok. And before that, South Korea and even Rwanda have expressed interest in joining Formula 1. But Cape Town has something these other proposals don't. A track layout. This latest news comes with this image of a layout around existing roads surrounding Greenpoint Park and golf course and running alongside the DHL Stadium, one of the venues for the 2010 World Cup. I'm not too interested in discussing whether South Africa is more likely than these other countries to get a race, but I am interested in track layouts. And apparently I've gained a bit of a reputation for grading them. So I thought we'd take a quick tour around this place, talk about what it would look like for a Formula 1 car to drive here. Would we get an exciting race full of overtakes or a Monaco-style parade? And then we can discuss some potential ways to improve this layout. My name is Mr. V. Let's get into it. So, a couple details about this track. About 85% of its distance is on existing public roads, making it very much a street track. So expect to see some narrower corner profiles and less grippy tarmac than a permanent circuit, much in the same way as Baku or Singapore. It's designed by Tilke Engineers and Architects, the company of Herman Tilke, who is famous, or for some people infamous, for designing many of the tracks that we currently use in Formula 1, namely the modern layout of the Red Bull Ring, Bahrain, Shanghai, Singapore, Yas Marina, Kota, Baku, Jeddah, and the Las Vegas Strip circuit. And one final note about this proposal, every article you see about this will claim that this layout has a length of 5.7 kilometers, but this is because every Formula 1 journalist is a lazy idiot and doesn't know how to use a ruler. 5.7 kilometers was the length of the previous proposal for Cape Town, which looked like this. But this new one is shorter, at just 5.2 kilometers, the same as Albert Park. This is easily verified, like in Google Maps. Took me 2 minutes. Come on, everybody. And so, the lap. Obviously, it makes sense to go through this thing in order from the start line, but please note I will be using the actual corner numbers because whoever made this graphic has been way too generous. 25 corners, are we in Jeddah? We start down here by the stadium, and immediately after the start line we have turn 1 second. Immediately after the start line, we have this kink in the straight, which doesn't need a corner number, which leads us down into turn 1, a 90-degree left, very much reminiscent of Baku. We then have a short run down into the right-left 90s of turns 2 and 3, giving the opening of this lap a very Azerbaijani feel indeed. Then begins our longest full flat section of the track along the waterfront, but it does contain this kink, which is heavy enough to phase a Formula 1 car and so does deserve a corner number. 1 corner number. This point where you clip the apex of turn 4 is very similar in speed and profile to Blanchimont at Spa, and I think this will give a great spectacle when watching cars go around here. I can imagine this grandstand is going to be one of the most popular if this becomes a track, particularly because there's a very high chance of seeing a car crash into the barriers right about here. Cars should be able to follow and slipstream along the seafront here, meaning turn 5, a heavy left-hander, is our first real overtaking opportunity of the lap. This is followed by a long right of turn 6, and so this combo is basically the exact same as this section of Miami after the bendy back straight, which I actually think is a very good piece of track design. It allows cars to get side by side and continue fighting if you don't make a clean pass on the straight. I like this. Another short run through the kinks of I'm so sorry about this. Another short run through the kink of turn 7 leads us into the heavy braking zone of turn 8, which could be another overtaking opportunity if you are close, but not close enough, coming into turn 5. A short blast up a little slope into the next left of turn 9, which makes this section feel very much like Singapore. And then we get another flat section through the kink of turn 10. Due to the corner profiles of 8 and 9, I don't really think we're going to get any cars following through here, sadly. At this point, the layout decides to switch between the existing roads of Main Road and Helen Susan Boulevard, and it does this by straight up plagiarizing the fast left-right of Albert Park turn 9 and 10. This section is a little smaller and a little tighter than in Australia, but I still think it's a great corner profiling. Plagiarism jokes aside, this is a good addition to the lap. These corners, 11 and 12, won't allow cars to slipstream, but they probably wouldn't have been close anyway due to the previous corners, and so you may as well throw in some worldy corners to have some fun during qualifying. Thankfully, we then get another relatively long flat section, and so there is a chance drivers could catch up to the car ahead. The designers of this graphic have tried to get away with another 2 corner numbers through here to continue padding their stats, but after we chuck those in the bin, we come down into turn 13 and begin the tight, windy section to end the lap, very reminiscent of the end of Abu Dhabi. Copying your own homework, Herman, I see you there. Turns 13 and 14 will be very tight as they go over this elevated roundabout thing. I assume the local council is planning to take away these central islands because otherwise corner entry is just 8 meters wide here and doesn't meet FIA track regulations. If those are removed, there is some space for cars to fight side by side if they were close coming down the straight beforehand, and I think the corner profiling is okay for fighting. Turn 15 then takes us off existing roads and into a stadium section within the Greenpoint Athletics track to finish the lap. A flick to the right through 16, a heavy right inside the stadium, and then a double left of 18 and 19 brings us back onto the pitch straight. Sadly, this section does look like it would act as a separator for cars, making fighting down the pitch straight a lot less likely, much in the same way as the stadium section of Hermanos Rodriguez or the final sector of Abu Dhabi. 19 actual corners for this track then, with 12 of them being to the left. Some incredible high-speed sections with some fun flat-out corners, but overtaking limited to one clear option down at turn 5, and then maybe some opportunities down at 8, 13 or turn 1 if you have a good tyre advantage over the car ahead. In terms of elevation change around here, there is no elevation change around here. Being right by the seafront, this entire area is incredibly flat, and so the biggest rise is only about 4 or 5 meters. If this was on the F1 calendar, this would potentially be the flattest track of the entire year. Before I suggest some improvements around here, I will say my first impressions of this track are actually pretty positive, all things considered. I think it's decent, and certainly better than some recent additions to the calendar, namely Miami and Jeddah. This looks like it could give some fun wheel-to-wheel action and a good spectacle in qualifying, making it similar to the Las Vegas Strip, which remains a welcome surprise to the Formula 1 calendar. I do also agree with the notion that if Formula 1 wants to truly call itself a world championship, it should race on every majorly populated continent. And this is a decent venue for bringing Formula 1 back to Africa. That all being said, nothing's perfect, and there are some tweaks we could make to improve our chances of a banger race around here. Apart from, of course, sorting out the corner numbers. I'm actually not going to suggest any changes to the first sector because I think it's okay, particularly this kink along the seafront. Turns 1, 2 and 3 are nothing special, but I can see why they've done it because they needed space to run off at turn 1. The alternative, having turn 1 go right to the seafront, would mean launching unsuspecting drivers into the South Atlantic Ocean. Suboptimal. In Sector 2 as well, there's not a whole lot that can be done without knocking down tons of buildings, which could make a few locals angry, I suppose. Just a couple caution points for me here, which would be to make sure turns 5 and 6 are wide enough that 2 cars can go through here side by side the whole way. That is easier said than done, as it looks like these corners are going to be built into this car park, which it doesn't exactly look spacious. And then the same thing down at turn 8. Ensuring this has a nice wide entry allows cars to fight and take alternate lines, but currently it looks a bit restricted around here. Removing the central island from this road would allow for a wider swing into the corner, and then maybe dropping this curb and pushing the track wall closer to the promenade on the outside would give more options for racing lines and stop this corner from being a single file affair. Not much that can be done to the next few corners. I do really like these fast follow-throughs even if you can't slipstream through here, and so we turn our attention to the final sector of the lap. I don't know if the organisers of this potential event are intending for this race roundabout to stay the same. Their proposal seems to show that Helen Suzman Boulevard is turned back into parkland, so maybe it's not necessary and is going to be replaced with a smaller, flatter junction. But if the roundabout is going to stay, I would say that pushing this external wall outwards would give some much needed racing room through here. This is the current width of the proposed turn 14, and considering you would need to line this bridge with some pretty hefty walls to stop cars falling onto the pathway below, it's going to be super narrow through here. If no changes are made, this would be similar to the bridge section of Singapore, which is almost impossible to fight over. Then into the stadium section of the athletics track, and I think a couple tweaks to these last few corners could really improve our chances of getting cars close together going down the pit straight. The current plan is a hard right-hander, a short stab on the throttle, then a hard left, widening into a medium left. It's very aero dependent and there's only one racing line through here, meaning we get maximum concertina effect. Increasing the total rotation of turn 17 means we then leave the stadium at a different angle and we get more space to play with the profiles of turn 18 and 19. Considering this is just an open plaza, it's free real estate to make something nice. I would propose a tighter, rounded hairpin for turn 18, transforming this from an aero-dependent corner into a fully mechanical grip-dependent corner. This means that cars can get closer together here as they aren't so affected by dirty air, simply needing better tyres, or better bravery, to flick it through right next to the car in front. Then I would say to keep turn 19 relatively similar, but to move it up and turn it into more of a kink to get onto the pit straight. This reduces our time with full steering lock and increases the importance of getting good traction out of the hairpin of turn 18. The name of the game with these final three corners is reducing the dependence on the car's wings and increasing dependence on the tyres and just different lines, clever strategy, that kind of thing. And there you have it, the proposed layout for the Cape Town Grand Prix and the improved Mr. V's garage version. Well, I guess improved is subjective and I might be biased. As with previous track improvement videos, if you are watching this from Tilka Engineers and Architects, or you happen to be the organizer for the proposed Cape Town Grand Prix, get in touch if you'd like to license these corner profiles. Mr. V Engineer and Architects has very reasonable rates for corner consultancy, starting at just $1 million per corner. And then for all of you who don't work for Herman Tilke, what do you think of this proposed Cape Town Grand Prix and its track layout? Let me know down below. Bear in mind, the government of South Africa is currently deciding between this and Kyalami to put forward in its main proposal to Formula 1 management. So there's a chance we won't see this for much longer, but I think that would be a shame. I think it's a good layout. I'd like to see how this track plays out in a race, and I think it's a great location for people who want to travel in and witness the first African Grand Prix in over 30 years. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've been Mr. V, and I'll Mr. C you later.